Well, good morning, everyone. I don't know if you're with us yet, but we're getting all set up, ready to go. I hope you're all well wherever in the world you are.
Yeah, I think we're ready, and we can see people joining. So welcome, and I think we should probably crack on. So, good morning, everyone. We hope you and your teams and your family are all safe and well and adapting to everything that's going on during this really unusual of times. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Tom Jepson. I'm one of the directors here at Footprint Digital. We're a digital marketing agency that exists to help customers join the dots and help make their digital marketing more human. Our specialism is in data-driven marketing services that include strategy, SEO, PPC, conversion, and content marketing. In a nutshell, if it's about understanding your customers and what they're doing online, finding them, driving traffic to your website, or perhaps converting more of the traffic that you already have, then that's our thing. Right now, we're focused on trying to help businesses with practical responses to COVID-19 and how digital marketing can help. This particular webinar is part of a wider series of free support that we're producing to help organizations navigate in these difficult times. In this session, we're going to be covering what agencies and employers need to know in response to COVID-19. Obviously, there's a lot of change going on, not only in the way that we work, in our clients and customer behaviors and things like that, but also in new legislation and grants. So today, what we're looking to do is share what we've learned over the last few weeks and provide some of our thoughts and learnings on some of the key things that we think agencies and wider businesses need to be thinking about at the moment. Hopefully, and it goes without saying, but we'd also really strongly welcome your own questions, thoughts, and ideas. This is a sharp learning curve for all, really, but I believe that through a hived approach to learning and sharing, that's how we can kind of get through this together and quicker. So just to let you know, this is a closed group at this point in time. It's not being broadcast to the wider web. We are looking to publish this online at a later date. So obviously, if there's any particular sensitive areas that you don't want to cover, then please be conscious of that. And we can pick them up outside and have separate conversations. But at the end of this webinar, what I'll do is I'll provide details on how you can subscribe to future webinars and content that we're going to be releasing in the coming weeks. Today, I am joined by my fellow director, Tom Bowden.
Morning.
As well as Gary White, who is from one of our excellent partners, Aspen White. Gary's the director over there and specializes in R&D tax consulting and credits, so he thought this would be really useful for this particular session. He's also got a bit long history in terms of working in the accounting industry and skilled in negotiation, business planning, sales management, and business development. So welcome, guys. How are you guys today?
Yeah, well, thanks.
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Brilliant. So should we crack on? We've got a few points to cover. Tom, do you want to go through the first part?
Yes, yeah. So, wow, what extraordinary times. I mean, I was just reflecting 2 weeks ago. I was sat in the office planning the future, looking at all of the great things we were going to do this year, expand our team, run a range of brilliant events, and we had big plans for the year. And then something like this happens. And yeah, I mean, it's quite an extraordinary time to be in business, I think. So, and then, so really within 2 weeks, we've had to totally reassess everything that's going on and think about what the future holds. So my first bit of advice and the thing that's helped recently for us is to take a moment for yourself. As business owners at the moment, what we need is we don't need lions led by donkeys, is what the First World War quote was. But at the moment, we need great leadership out there, and things are tough. Big decisions need to be made, and they need to be made fast. And it's a huge learning curve. And so my first bit of advice is just take a moment for yourselves, breathe, take that moment to reflect, because you've got to be in a space at the moment where you've got clarity to make some of these big decisions fast. Tom and I are really lucky because we're in a partnership, and we can obviously a business partnership, that is. we can obviously discuss and bounce ideas back and forth, and that's incredibly useful at this time. So any of you kind of business owners who are on your own out there, try and bounce all these ideas off other people. We're here to chat through anything at any time. We've also been very fortunate to have the support of external partners, people like Gary, who's been really helpful through this time, HR people, business friends in the community, and we're trying to make sure that we're communicating enough and getting as much feedback and thoughts on some of the ideas that we're coming up with at the moment to get through this time. So yeah, my first bit of advice is look after yourself, take a moment and breathe. My second bit of main advice is we have to look after our team. It's a really disorientating time at the moment for everyone. And we've all got to stick together through the good times and bad. Now, we're working really hard to make sure that our team more than ever know that we're here for them and that we're open for communication at any time about anything. There's all kinds of things going on in people's lives at the moment. They're adapting to being at home. A lot of them, their spouses may have lost their income. They're having to juggle kids being at home. They're having to work with a new balance. It's incredibly trying time for them at the moment. So take the time for them and try and support them. And it's counterintuitive because at the same time, we're a bit fraught and trying to desperately get as much work done as possible and trying to keep energy going. But I think your role as the leader in the organization, there's a really good analogy that I was taught once about leadership being a bit like a cog at the top of a machine. And for most of the time, we're trying to spin that cog as fast as possible so that ones further down keep their momentum going. Whereas at the moment, I think if we're spinning that top cog really fast, it's going to cause people to spin out further down. So I think we as leaders need to slow it down and try and make sure that our team aren't, as much as possible, not stressed out by the situation, remain focused on delivering the great quality work. So yeah, second bit of advice is to look after your team as much as you can. And then the third thing that we're really working hard on is looking after our clients. So obviously 2 weeks ago, we were looking at our client base. We had a fantastic a range of clients in all kinds of different diverse industries, and some of them have just been hit. We have wedding venues that have gone, are unable to trade overnight. And they're, it's a challenge for digital, but for those guys, it's a complete annihilation. And so what we're trying to do as much as we can is have those conversations with the clients and talk to them, be there for them, and work out what we can do to help them through this time. It's such an important time to support each other. And I think it's a great opportunity to build those relationships for the long term. Obviously, there's nothing that can be done in the short term.
Tom seems to have disappeared.
Sorry, guys, we seem to have lost Tom for some reason. We'll get him back on, but Tom's point around looking after clients and things like that, I think is absolutely instrumental. Obviously, we're all trying to think of ways, and it's, a lot of the work that we've been doing with clients at the moment is looking at how do we adapt to this change. Yes, there are certain clients that, business has stopped overnight, and it is incredibly hard for them. But there are other clients that are able to adapt, and it's about doing things like looking at what the changing needs of the customer are at this time. So, somebody's fears, anxieties, and needs 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, what the message that we were giving, that's completely changed. So I think we've got to think about that and support them. But also on a human compassionate level, I'd definitely recommend, like, just pick up the phone and speak to your clients and ask how they're doing, how they're getting on doing this. And I definitely wouldn't kind of shy away from getting in touch with them. There might be that thing of, oh, I don't want to rock the boat, let's just keep things going. But I'd actually say, you know, on a more of a humanitarian level, just reach out to them and check in, how are they? And then be proactive and creative in terms of coming up with solutions that are going to help them get through this. Because believe it or not, there are opportunities through that and through these difficult times. As we'll talk about later on, when Tom comes back, we'll look at ways in which you can adapt to your own products and things, and clients can do that as well. So be there as a human level, but also to be able to kind of help them come up with new approaches and products and ways in which they might be able to service their clients and change their offering over this time will be key. The other thing that we think that might be useful for clients and for yourselves at this point in time is to think about, obviously, the grants and the funding side of things. You know, R&D tax credits, I don't know if you guys are aware of them, but that was one of the things that why we've got Gary here today to kind of talk about. Obviously there's other legislation coming through as well, but the R&D tax credits that have been around for some time, it might be a great time to tap into there to get extra kind of cash flow. So I don't know, Gary, would you be able to give us your thoughts and feedback?
Yeah, certainly, Tom. As you say, Tom, I mean the opportunity to get very substantial reductions in corporation tax liabilities, but also to get refunds of corporation tax you've already paid is a big one. We spend a lot of time meeting clients that aren't aware that they're able to claim R&D tax relief because they see that as just a normal part of their operation and don't realise they're actually carrying out R&D. Some big examples of that. To take an example at the moment, if you get a business with a March the 31st year end date, which quite a few companies do have, I've still got the ability before the end of next week, or the 31st of March, Monday or Tuesday, to put a claim in respect of the year ending March 2018 still, because there's a 2-year rule under which you can claim R&D tax relief. So for some businesses that could be quite a big injection of money for them. And just for the sake of having getting some advice off someone like myself or their accountants who should be able to help them with it, that could be a big injection of funds that they perhaps hadn't really considered before. The R&D legislation is very wide and is effectively an innovation sort of relief, if you like, for businesses that have worked on themselves in terms of products, systems, efficiencies, scientific uncertainty or technical uncertainty. That's the general definition of R&D, and most people just don't realise that. So if you're a business owner and you've got a bit of time on your hands now, and you perhaps have not just really had the time to look into R&D in the past because you're too busy with operational day-to-day issues, then now may be the time to take a look at that and just really get an independent appraisal of your business. It's something we do a lot of the time. We're very happy to give people initial advice, whether they decide to go ahead and use us or use their own accountants or their own advisors. That's entirely up to them. But we do find that there's an awful lot of pot of gold sitting under business owners' noses don't realise it's there. I had a conversation yesterday with a business that turns over about 25 million, and they were convinced that they don't do R&D, and we've found quite a few areas where they in fact are, and they will be putting a claim in at some stage in the near future, just as a result of that. And that's something that they had totally discounted as a viable proposition in the past. And that was a business with a qualified FD in situ, very good accountant, but hadn't really looked at it because he didn't really have the specialist knowledge in that particular area. So that is a big area to look at. So we would certainly recommend you do that, even if you've already made claims in the past, but you suspected the claim may not be sufficient enough, may not have been a fair amount to get back for the activity that took place. If your gut feel tells you that, it's worth getting a second opinion as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest barrier with the R&D tax credit is just knowing that actually you can, there is an opportunity there, because I think most people are worried, oh, I'm not doing anything R&D. And I don't
Yes.
think, like, when we first came to this, we were like, well, we don't really, that's not something that we do, or we didn't see it.
No, that's right. You just don't
really
realise.
interesting that there's a lot of different things, and I'm not going to name any names, just in case they don't wish to do, but I know there's one of our partners in this room that has been developing some technology to help them kind of help develop their systems and incorporate and streamline their communication, and coming up with an actual platform that allows them to kind of service and develop a greater quality of service and delivery for their clients. Now, those kind of things that are also, could potentially be seen as
So, yeah, we spend a lot of time working with clients that have developed their own in-house capabilities and systems, processes. Even if they've bought a platform or a software platform like Salesforce, which is very, very comprehensive system, the purchase of that software system itself is not R&D, but the time and the cost and everything involved in adapting it and integrating it into the company systems definitely are R&D, and very often that the latter cost there is 5 to 10 times as much as the original software purchase or rental. So it is that adaptation of existing technology which falls within R&D. A lot of people just think, well, it's someone else's technology, therefore it's not R&D. Adaptation of someone else's technology is R&D, and that's one of the key sort of popular myths that people get confused by. So it is well worth looking at areas like that. Anything that improves the overall value of that business, very often you would class that as intellectual property. Creation of intellectual property very often involves overcoming technical uncertainty, and therefore it falls within the definition of R&D. So businesses that are knowledge based, that are expertise based, that have got something special about them in terms of which is the vast majority of businesses, because that's how they're competitive, and that's how they survive in the first place. So are they were created in the first place because they've got something special in terms of their IP, which they're leveraging. That really is what modern service businesses are all about, and that's where when I go and see a business for the first time to find out about their operation and what they do and what makes them different to their competitors, that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for IP. And if I search for IP, that's when we normally find that R&D is taking place to have created that in the first place. And it's not just a one-off exercise. Most businesses have to be doing R&D day in, day out, every year, and it's a permanent feature of the business. So again, and it doesn't have to be just a project that you undertook at some stage, and it doesn't have to be projects that reach fruition, because for every successful project, very often there's 4 or 5 that you ran that weren't successful. Nothing ever happens first time. That's the nature of the entrepreneurial world we live in. So again, the R&D legislation is there to encourage people to keep trying till they succeed. And even if they don't succeed, you could have a business that starts trading, never makes any profits, therefore never pays any corporation tax, could still be getting R&D money back. So you could be a net recipient of R&D. If a business is loss making, very often they assume, well, I'm not paying any corporation tax, therefore surely I'm not eligible for R&D. You are. You're still eligible for it, provided you're undertaking qualifying R&D activities.
Yeah, definitely suggest people to explore it, because even those that think no, there's nothing that we do, I think it's quite surprising what classifies as it. I know Ben's just mentioned in the public chat that they've just completed an R&D application and awaiting the payment.
Okay. That's good.
And we have multiple projects that it was applicable to, and I think that's the first step in this, is just realizing that what's relevant. So at a time like now, when you're looking for cash flow and things like that, it seems like a now's a brilliant time to start exploring that if you haven't.
Processed. I mean, you know, if your accounts, as long as your accounts have been done, and accounts have to be generally completed for limited companies and filed at Companies House within 9 months. But they usually, you know, if you get them done earlier, you get the claim done earlier. So there's no reason to wait 9 months after the end of the accounting year to get your R&D tax claim. Why not wait 2 months? Why not do them, you know, accelerate the process and do them ASAP? I'm just talking to someone this morning on our team, and we've got a client whose year end is next week, 31st of March, and their accounts are bang up to date. So there's no reason why we have to wait months to do the statutory accounts. We'll get them done and we'll get the claim in literally as a matter of urgency, because the sooner we can do that, the sooner they'll get an injection of money back into them when, at a time when they need it most, really, over the next 2 or 3 months, all being well.
So one of a couple of questions that come in is in terms of, like, you know, can you look back in time, or was it just for like the current financial year? And
it's 2 years. It's 2 years from the date of the year-end accounting date. So March 31st, I used as an example earlier, that's March 18. So as long as the claim goes in before the 31st of March this year, they can still claim retrospectively in respect of the year to the end of March 18. Obviously 19, they've got another year to put that claim in, so it's not too much of a rush on that. But it makes sense, if you're doing 18, you might as well do 19 as well and get 2 years claim back in one go. So HMRC are normally pretty quick in refunding the money. 28 days is their target turnaround time, not just a process.
That was going to be my question, really, is how long does this take to kind of push through? Because obviously time is of the essence, I'd imagine.
It is, yeah. They have slowed up a bit in March, I guess, and that's because of the current sort of turmoil. So they do seem to slow up a bit. They did get up to date back in the early part of this year. But, you know, we're hoping that with some extra resources the government may be able to allocate and everything, and the fact that businesses really do need this cash flow, we're hoping that they'll get back on track and throw some more resources at it, because you know, over the next 3 months are going to be crucial. It depends how long the sort of lockdown period or furloughing period for employees is and everything. No one really knows, but cash is king in business, obviously. So that is crucial to get that moving. And there are a number of other measures that I'll touch on now, if that's okay. And in terms of the COVID-19 situation, and things are changing almost daily. And one area in particular I think is useful, obviously, is the fact that with employees, you know, if the employees cannot work effectively and have had to be furloughed, I think the word is it's like temporary layoff, I believe it's better way to describe it. You can get 80% of their salary costs back from the government. But they're still working on getting a portal set up so that facility is in place, so that people can pay the salaries out and reclaim the money back virtually immediately. I'm told that's going to be ready in April time, and obviously the HMRC team are working around the clock to get that ready. But it relates to the period from the 1st of March onwards. So people who have already laid staff off, say 2 weeks ago or whatever, you know, that they can reclaim those wages paid for that period. You know, backdated. So it's an important process. It's going to be part of the sort of payroll, the month-end payroll run. So if people outsource their payrolls, then speak to their advisors and outsource providers on that. They'll have plans in place to get that action. But we're all sort of working a little bit in the dark at the moment. No one really knows exactly how it's going to work, but it will be a separate portal that, and I'm told that the monies will be refunded very quickly as soon as they get processed, the claims get processed. So there's that in terms of employees. There's also some very valuable reliefs from small business rates relief. Companies that are occupying premises that have got a rateable value of between, either below 15,000 rateable value, and those companies that operate in properties that are between 15 and 51,000 rateable value. There's no rates to pay in the year ahead, which is good news. But in addition to that, the ones that are below 15,000 are eligible for a £10,000 grant as well, which comes via the local authority. So that's a useful injection for businesses of that sort of size. And it's given it an idea of 15,000 rateable value.
Gary, I understand that the process of getting that money back is that the local authority will contact the organisation. So it's not something that we have to actively pursue, but they'll let us know whether the money is there for us.
Well, it depends how. I mean, you know, I think quite a few will probably miss out on it. So I would say to people, if you haven't heard by say middle of April, then inquire with your local council in case they just don't have the information. Some people work from serviced offices where the main landlord pays all the costs and recharges it. And some of those landlords will provide information and verification. So even though some of their tenants are paying an all-inclusive rent at the moment, they'll still be able to claim the rates benefit. So it's worth speaking to the landlords if you are in a sort of serviced office accommodation like Regis or WeWork, those sort of people. So that's a very useful benefit. And also,
there's been a really good note from Ben Green from Fever there. Thanks for that, Ben. That CBT have set up a page now, so you can go with an email address. So that's the Colchester Borough Council. Actually have a place where you can go and check that you've been considered, I believe.
That's good.
Yeah, apparently you can submit your information, and just to make sure you're not like leaving it to chance. And you'd assume other boroughs and councils will have done that as well. So maybe look in your local area and see whether that's available for you too. But no, thanks for sharing that, Ben. That's great.
So, Gary, there was one other question. One of the grants, so the government are giving, or there's this opportunity to get a loan from banks at the moment that was in the press. But what are your thoughts on those? My understanding is that they're actually quite complex. The best of the last chance, I think.
Very cautious. A good friend of mine who worked in corporate recovery and also banking over the years highlighted to me that he's pretty certain that the loans as they stand at the moment don't work. The fact that the government was going to be putting up either 80% or 100% guarantee for the loans. He has it on good authority from the banks that just doesn't work at the moment, and the only circumstances under which banks would lend would be as the lender of last resort. If the individual, the companies concerned, had exhausted all other forms of security, had other borrowings and everything, and just could not borrow another penny from anywhere else, only in situations like that would the new loan scheme apply. So that would probably count out 90% of all people probably thinking that they're eligible for them, perhaps more. So it's really very much, and his concern, understandably, and I would share that, was that surely that this is a loan or a contingency that you need, a fund that you need just in case. And it could be that what you don't really want to do is borrow money unnecessarily, but you need to have that facility there just in case, because what you don't want to do is do it in a crisis situation. You'd rather do it as a contingency. So I think there's some clarification needed from the government on that, and hopefully that's going to come out over the next few days, because I know the FSB, the Federation of Small Business, has been campaigning for more information, and their members don't think this goes anywhere near solving the issue that could be facing many businesses out there at the moment.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, Gary. So if I was just to summarize the points that we've learned from you, first thing is to sort out our cash flow, cut what we can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't pay our VAT bill.
Correct. That's the other one. That's the big one. Yeah. From the March 20th onwards, any VAT liabilities that would have normally been paid from then up to the end of June 30th, hold on to the money. So cancel your DD just in case. If you've been paying your VAT by direct debit, cancel that immediately just in case that gets taken in error or something.
Great. And then to pursue the R&D tax credits to fellow team members, if that makes sense for you as a business, to make the most of the small grant, the small business rates grant, and to go tentatively into the loan space, but to think of that as more of a long-term thing.
Right. Just one quick point I would make there: the small business grant, which is where it applies to businesses with between 15 and 51,000 rateable value. To get that grant, which is 25,000, you have to be in the retail, leisure, or hospitality sector only. Okay, so below 15,000, any sector, between 15 and 51, purely those three sectors I've highlighted there. I don't want to raise people's hopes unnecessarily if they're not in those sectors and thinking they can get 25k.
Well, thank you, Gary. I think that's been really useful. And the final thing you spoke to me about the other day was doing a proper risk analysis on your clients so that you're ahead.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if your company's a limited companies, you can go online and check out their accounts and their balance sheets and their credit risk levels and everything, and you could quite quickly develop a little spreadsheet of your top 10 customers, top 20 or whatever. It really won't take long. You can go on the Companies House website and just put their name in and do a search, and you can use credit rating agencies like Experian, or even Dudil. I think you can get a free Dudil account set up if necessary, and carry out your own risk analysis and the 80-20 rule, and just have a look at your biggest clients, which comprise your biggest elements of your turnover, and as Tom says, pick up the phone, speak to them, engage with them, see how you can help, and it's that ecosystem you've got in business is very, very powerful. I wouldn't underestimate that at all.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Gary. So there's a few other things that we're thinking about a lot at Footprint at the moment. And the first one is, whilst we're in this moment, we're also trying to think about the future and what the new natural pattern is for business. We know this is going to be a fundamental change for the way business is done. And so we're trying to take a moment to observe and think about what 6 months down the line looks like, what 12 months, what 5 years looks like. And we're trying to think about the products and opportunities within that and try and get ahead of ourselves for that. And so, Tom, I thought maybe you might cover a bit about building asset within the business throughout this time as well.
Yeah, I think there is a bit of a silver lining in relation to this, and I think for some of us there are opportunities where we're getting a bit more time to work strategically. For those that aren't having as much client work going on, then there's times to go back to that long list of things that you had to do, and I think as well as strategic time on how you can help improve and adapt the business. There's also the opportunity to build assets. So, now's the time to thinking about, can you build that? Can you bring content online? Have you got, long form content or various different content that you've had that you can then repurpose and bring online? Or it could even be, it doesn't necessarily have to be something new. It could be a post or content that you've created a few years ago that might be, if it's relevant now, then to bring it back and kind of push it out there again. I think things like our email list and our social media channels, they're key communication assets at the moment. So if we're building asset around content, then we should be using those mediums as a mode to distribute that message. We're in the process of actually writing our book that has been ongoing for the last year or so. So, that's more asset building that we're now being able to say, right, with that content, how can we kind of split that into other forms of content that we can then push out through social media and online. So that helps kind of reuse and repackage that, but also we're building that asset in terms of in the future that's going to be an ongoing asset and resource for the organization. But it could be other stuff that you could do at a time like this. It could be look at your proposal documentations or things, product packs and things, and just look at ways, right, let's tweak and update them and make them better. Because let's face it, in day-to-day work, you've got a list as long as your arm of the stuff that you should be doing, but you're always kind of taken up by client time. So I think if you do find that you have time that you can focus on, then this is a great way to make use of that. I spoke with a partner last week, actually, and they were talking about how they've actually had a chance to work on their website. I'd love to ask anybody in here, like, how many things do you have that you'd like to do to your website? It's always the last thing that gets done. So now's the time to kind of focus on those things, perhaps, and the wider marketing side of things. I've been thinking a lot about Henry Ford's famous quote that says, stopping advertising to save money is like stopping your watch to save time. I think, we need to continue communicating and promoting ourselves, and content is a great way to do that. But it also brings in, and like we've been trying to do, we're trying to create helpful, useful content at a time like this. So I definitely encourage people to go back and look at, what can I be doing at a time like this that's going to be building asset and helping promote the organisation and build relationships with clients, existing ones, but also laying the foundations and connections for future clients.
Great. Yeah. And so the other thing that we've started looking at as well is new product opportunities. Now, so things have changed fast, and we're trying to quickly adapt our product range to try and suit the changing needs of the market. One of the things we've just done, for example, is we've launched a zero to hero product where we can help people go online, get a web shop up and a Google Ads and Facebook campaign live for about £3,000. And we've done that in partnership with a partner. And the intention is that would be live within 48 hours. So for all of those grocers and all of those independent retailers that really want to quickly get online, we've developed a product quickly and are trying to support a few businesses with that. Another product we're thinking about, we think the future will, we think people are obviously having to furlough their internal teams. We're going to go bigger into our outsourced digital marketing management. That's something that we've been offering to a few clients so far, but we think that's going to be an area where we can support in the future, where employers may look to reduce their staff levels and have that as an outsourced option. And we also recognize, we do think there's going to be a big opportunity in the future with businesses, certainly the big retailers who have been blasé about online in the past. We think that they're going to go big into digital. So we can see a lot of them in the past haven't had huge digital teams, but we think they're going to come back in this year and finally take their web presence seriously. So we're going to be looking out for that kind of work as well. So the general message is, what new products are out there? What new ways can you adapt to the new world that we see ahead of us?
Brilliant.
And the final thing was around partnerships. So obviously partnerships are real now, that's for sure. This is a time where we've all got to pull together, and that's the whole point of everything that we're doing here, really, and trying to share information. And Tom put it out there earlier, especially with business owners and those of you out there that are just kind of, it's just you. It must be incredibly difficult at this stage. So pull on partners and build relationships as well. We are getting through this together, and I think even things like this and sharing some learnings are going to be absolutely critical and key, as well as just the day-to-day moral support and sounding board. So I'd certainly encourage you all to look out there and get in touch with other people and other organizations that you can kind of strengthen your partnership with. There might be other things that you can partner with in terms of product offering. So that's what we're doing, as Tom's mentioned, with a few different partners. And anyone that's interested is, okay, if we can get people online quicker and faster, then how can we incorporate what we do into it as well? I think let's stick together and kind of branch out and support one another and continue to do so. I think, as I said at the very beginning, it is a sharp learning curve, and things are changing day to day at a very quick rate. And in order for us to adapt as quickly as possible, well, that comes through a kind of hive mentality, sharing knowledge and ideas and suggestions. So I definitely support that as an approach to help get through the short and the long term as well. That's the thing, really, that those partnerships are not for just this period. These are going to be longer form partnerships that yield benefits for the longer term as well. Okay, I think there was a comment come in as well that was very useful. Ben was saying that really appreciate the efforts that you guys are putting in to keep everyone talking and feeling supported. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for your suggestions. He said it's an unprecedented time for all of us. Just an FYI, they contacted their studio landlord and managed to get a 50% reduction in their rent for 3 months. So that might be something for people to consider. You know, I think you've got to reach out there, as Gary put in there, is look at cash flow and look at cutting, you know, costs where you can and where you need to. So that might be an option as well for you to kind of save money. And
yeah, great.
Are there any other questions? Or so Will's asked, what did you ask them, and were they forthcoming? So we'll let Ben answer that and share that. Please let us know, are there any other questions that you have that you'd like to pose for either myself, Tom, or Gary at this stage?
So I think I'd like to, if we thank you, Gary, for your time today, and to remind everybody that there are great supportive organisations out there. Gary's been brilliant with us, really helpful, so pick up with him. We've also been working with Sarah McKee Harris at Kingswood Group HR. They've been extremely useful for us as well. So there's good people out there. We'll introduce you to everybody that we know. If you have a need for anything at this time, we'll share the people that we recommend. The other thing, and just know that we're going to be putting on a string of events like this for clients. I'm going to pop the address where they are now. Next week, we've got a busy schedule. We've got a webinar a day. So please do introduce any of your client base that would like to join us. We'd love to hear from them. And in the meantime, if you've got ideas for joint products, things where we can collaborate together, please just pick up the phone and have a chat with us, and we'll work something out. But in the meantime, stay safe and take care of yourself, take care of your team, take care of your clients.
All the best.
Thanks for joining, guys. All the best.